10 after 4?
Yeah, no, 10 after 3 would be great.
I don't know what that thing.
What do you want to do?
The camera. For some reason, the camera, you don't see us.
Oh, what the heck you do?
What are you doing?
Zoom button. No, I'm working on it.
That's better.
Hello.
The question is can I hear everybody?
Close up the video button. See what we said. Yeah, if you guys want to start it, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Are you guys ready? Sorry. Are you guys ready in New York?
Yep. Yes, sir.
How many people do you have in that?
3. New York and then Crystal.
And then Crystal. Okay, great. Wonderful. Hey guys.
So then Tim is not there. He's also obviously a participant. So.
Perfect. Okay,
Or New
great.
York, I guess.
All right. Excellent. So to kick it off, hi everyone. I'm Jessica. I think some of you have met. It's been a little while, so we'll kind of reintroduce ourselves. Jessica and Neil with Marble Arch. And just to give you a background, I think we were first here December or January, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while. It was pre-tax deluge, so we're excited to be back and excited that all of you made it out alive. And what we want to do is we are working with TYS leadership about supporting the 2013 ROC of the Human Capital Development System. And we are really, really excited to be a part of that. And what we've looked at with TYS is our specialty is performance acceleration. We help organizations reach the next level. We help leaders identify what strengths and obstacles are present within the company, leverage or remove in order to reach that next level. We bring some external expertise, and we really see ourselves as catalysts for focused change to get to the level that we want to see. For TYS, that level is creating a human capital development system that increases individual, team, and organizational performance. And what we mentioned to leadership, Eric, Chris, and Glenn specifically, is that before we can recommend things to specific tactics for the development system to build, we need to understand the current state of the organization. We need to understand deeply the strengths, weaknesses present within the performance management, development, culture, and strategy of the organization in order to build from there. It's just like if you want to increase your mile time, you need to know where you're starting, right? Before you can start a training regimen to improve. So that's what we're doing. We're taking a measurement, a qualitative measurement of the current state of the organization. This is a very in-depth questionnaire. We're going to go over some of the kind of best ways to attack it with all of you. And we do have some instructions that we're going to hand out in just a moment. I believe everyone virtually has the instructions emailed to you, correct? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay. So why don't we kick off with first handing out the instructions, and we're going to go over what it's going to look like. So in order to get a very three-dimensional, a very thorough, and in-depth picture of TYS's current state, we have a questionnaire that Neil and I developed, and we use it with many of our clients. It's something that experience and research together combined led us to. And then we did customize it for TYS. It's 25 qualitative questions, which means it's 25 questions about your experience here, and about metrics, about strategy, about culture, development, performance management, all the critical components of any human capital development. Because it is 25 questions, and each one of them is open-ended and really looking for your very candid and open input, we do recommend taking your time with it, which we're going to talk about today. So we do recommend, as you'll see, we have about 2 weeks that we're going to take and complete the survey with the questionnaire. Maybe take a couple of questions a day, 2 or 3. Maybe start with the ones that speak to you first. Feel free to skim through, and if the last one is one that you really want to answer first, go ahead and do that. But take your time, because you don't want to get burned out trying to fill it all out the last day. Your input is critical for our recommendations to make the human capital development system as powerful as possible. So everyone here has the opportunity to provide input to help that system in the end be as powerful as possible for you. Okay? This is your opportunity to really influence that process. So let's first go over what the process looks like, and then we'll open up for any questions or concerns from there, okay? So after today's kickoff meeting, from Neil, you'll get a Word document with the questionnaire in it, okay? And you'll have 2 weeks to complete it. Read through, again, just answer them as you can, as you're interested, take your time, maybe even just calendar in 2 questions a day. Participants then will email the responses back to Neil in either a Word or a PDF format, whichever you're most comfortable. Some people are more comfortable with a PDF format so that they're, in case there's any concern that something might have gotten changed or deleted, and that's absolutely fine. So we also recommend that these questions aren't always easy. And if you have a question about a question, if something's unclear to you or you're not quite sure what we're looking for, we're available. We're actually very used to fielding calls throughout this process from participants. I don't know that we've actually done one where we haven't gotten a call or two about a question or about the process. So we are absolutely available, email or phone, which will be sent out with the questionnaire itself to reach us and ask us those questions. Once we receive each of the questionnaires back, we take 2 weeks to analyze, distill, and pull out themes from those questionnaires to create a report, which is basically that 3-dimensional picture of current TYS performance, strengths and weaknesses, along with our recommendations for the human capital development. So what we will do is in that report, there will not be any quoted answers or individuals referenced. This is literally our ability to analyze that information and pull out the things, to distill this multiple data points that we're getting into something very readable and usable by TYS. Should there be any areas of specific concern, we may work with leadership to identify individuals to engage in further discussion with. If you share something with us that we feel like may need some follow-up or we might want to work with you on individually, we then will use the questionnaires to kind of follow up with you individually. But the report itself, which we will be sharing with all of you, will be simply a distillation without any individual attribution at all. Okay? So then that brings us to step 4, when approximately 4 weeks from now, after you responded with the questionnaire and we have distilled the answers, we come back and close the loop by sharing the information with you. We'll share the themes that we found, the strengths, the weaknesses, even the recommendations from the team that were made. And then we will sit down with leadership after and make our recommendations for next steps on the human capital development system. Okay? Does anybody have any questions so far about the process itself? Did I leave any glaring gaps that I didn't think about?
I feel like an average, I know it's not the same for everyone, but an average time it would take to complete.
You know, that's a good question. I've never heard anyone respond.
I only ask that because if someone sits down on the last day it's due and they think they're going to finish it in an hour, it's probably going to take more than that.
I would expect it's probably going to take about 2 hours every time, depending on how in-depth or how robust an answer you want to give. Some of them you'll probably go through pretty quick, and then others will take a little bit extra time. And so I would at least start there. It may take you a little bit more depending on how much detail or how much you really want to give that question.
I would, and I tend to be a little bit more verbose than Neil.
6 hours.
It would probably take me about 4 to 6.
So that's a good range.
Let's go start tomorrow. We'll be done today.
With the spoken word.
Right.
Recorded.
Exactly. We could take everything. I think, and one thing also is we have gotten responses everywhere from 1 word to 2 pages for a single question. And it's really whatever you feel is appropriate for that answer for you. I will say 1 word is typically not sufficient for us to be able to help with the human capital development system. We don't need 2 pages for every answer. But I will also say that if there is one thing in particular that really strikes a chord with you, that you really feel you want to throw into perspective and give some examples, feel free to elaborate. That's what we take our 2 weeks for. I mean, we love diving in. The more information you give us, the more information we have to make recommendations. So please don't worry about being verbose. And also, if you can be concise and brief, and that's your preferred method, that's great too.
Can I ask a question?
The quality of your report will be limited to the quality of the answers.
That's really exactly.
So the better quality answers we give, the
Exactly.
better quality report we'll get.
Perfect way to put it. Thank you, Glenn.
And the greater insight that you can provide to us as well. I mean, you guys really are the experts at TYS, and you know what's going on and what's great, what can be done better or differently.
Yeah.
And so we want to, for us, we want to be able to tap into that insight. And so the more you can give us, the better.
We all have our own individual truths,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
and that's all we're looking for, is each individual's truths.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, thank you.
I'm Melissa, by the way. Question for you on the questions that we're answering. Are these standard type questions? Like, would you give these same questions to anybody that you're working with, or are these kind of catered more towards our culture and environment, or maybe in answering these questions you're going to get to another series of questions catered to our environment?
Great question. So we start with a standard assessment of 20 questions. What we did then is we asked ourselves, do these 20 questions apply to TYS? And we actually did go in and change some of the verbiage within each of those questions to match the culture and the vocabulary that we use for TYS so that it is customized. Some of them might seem a little bit out of place, but that is because, based on our research, it's something we still need to get to the heart of. So maybe it's something that hasn't quite been discussed as much as you would like to see it, but it's still present in order to get to the heart of where TYS is at. There are 5 questions worked in, which we wrote specifically for TYS and our understanding of the human capital development system's desired benefits. So those are worked in throughout as well. Okay, so while we started with our, again, kind of our research and experience-based bank of 20, we did customize and add additional. Some of the questions you bring up a good point and kind of leads into one point I want to make. You might see 2 questions that include a focus on feedback or metrics, but they are asking different things. So even if it might seem redundant, there is a very specific reason why we asked a different question about a similar focus. So just wanted to make sure that was made clear. When you're banging your fist on the table saying, no, not another question.
Copy paste.
Exactly. Right. We have gotten that one, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Maybe getting to this, but you expect to have the question out.
Oh, I apologize. We can have them out shortly after this meeting. So it's really up to you. Would you prefer the 2 weeks to start from today, or perhaps from tomorrow or later on in the week? What would work best for you?
Start tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow morning. Perfect. Okay, we'll get them out first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, so you can expect to receive an email from me at the email address on the paper. If for some reason it thinks it's spam or something like that, just kind of keep an eye out for it. It'll come probably between 8 and 9 tomorrow morning. So if for some reason you didn't get it, feel free to reach out, let me know, and we can try and figure out what happened.
Using tomorrow as a start date, but let's try to have all the responses back by Wednesday the 22nd.
And I think I heard you say this earlier. We respond to you. You coordinate all the answers and come back to either the Human Capital Development Group or the leaders or however you call us. But the responses as you regurgitate them, if you will, back to us is going to be anonymous. Like, we wouldn't know who says what.
I'm sorry, could you just, you broke up just the last, could you repeat the last part one more time?
Sure. So, from a response perspective, you will know that I responded to your question by virtue of doing the survey. When you send whoever the stakeholders are in this survey, you'll respond back, and are the answers, whatever you collaborated, is that anonymous, or will we know who said what? I think you said anonymous.
Sure. So the report itself may not include any attribution whatsoever, which we will actually deliver back to all of you. All of you will be part of the final meeting where we talk about the themes of the assignment, the strengths and weaknesses, and recommendations that the group made. What is not anonymous is if there's something within the report itself or something, a theme that is really strong, we might need to dive in individually, or leadership wants to engage individuals in further conversation about to get some more perspective, then they will be privy to those responses. Okay? So when we are having that final meeting, there will be no attribution whatsoever in that report. But leaders as well as Neil and I will be able to engage you in individual conversations should we need to.
Okay.
Emails embedded in Jessica's email. I read it along with everybody else, and at that stage it was the use of the word anonymity, and I expressed, I'm trying to share with everybody else the dialogue. I expressed some concern about that because of what the environment that we're trying to create around ownership and honesty and all of that. And so Eric and Chris and I and Will and Jessica spent quite a bit of time talking about whether it was appropriate in this environment or not. And while we are in surveys that we're doing, appropriate
That's an excellent there was a lot of conversation and because the candidness and openness is so important in this process to get as much as possible. And also understanding that you are creating very versus let's look at the overall themes. But if we need to dive in and get some more perspective, get your thoughts because they were very powerful, or you raised a good question, we want to be able to do that. So thank you very much for the question and bringing up the topic. Any other questions specifically? Or general comments?
One other comment. Document back to me. I'll follow it up with an email letting me know that I did receive it, so we can kind of close the loop on that as well. And so there's no question whether you got it or not. So you can expect that as well.
If you guys notice that someone hasn't returned it and it's coming down to the deadline, will you be following up with them, or is that something I should be trying to do?
Yeah. Generally, what we'll do is I'll send out a reminder periodically. So you probably get a couple reminders about it, just to give that little extra prompt and let you know. Hopefully that you've taken some time. If not, start taking the time now.
Yeah.
But so you'll get the initial email. You'll get a few reminders, and then when you do return it, you'll get a confirmation that I received it.
And I think just lastly, I want to let you know how much we've appreciated working with TYS. We work with quite a few clients, and I have to say, I personally, and we talked about this, we've never seen anything like the infrastructure of openness, your operating agreements, the charters, the ROCs. We're so excited to help you take those to the next level. And just this week, reviewing your operating agreements that you go over annually, it's exactly the type of thing that we would love our clients to, after maybe a year and a half or two of working with them, that they would want to do. And the fact that you have that already and that you're reviewing annually, you're so ahead of the curve. And we are really excited to be working with a company and an environment like this. So thank you very much for having us. Just excited to help.
That's great to hear.
we'll be sending this out to you tomorrow morning. And for any questions, comments, you want to call and use Michelle. And back to the I
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you.
Bye.